every single month. I see a journey that I needed to walk. It might be too heavy for most others. So I can bring to light to you today that abusers can be fathers or mothers. Little has changed in the 16 years since I got out of my abusive relationship. I spent a week ago, spent a whole day going around to local agencies, law enforcement, handing out my story. I only had one reach back to me. It's a difficult place where you can't defend yourself. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to put my hands on a woman. And hopefully we get the conversation started and open up the door to allow more men to walk through it and not take 16 years to do so.
Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It affects men too. Statistics show that nearly 1 in 7 men have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Yet, society often silences their stories, leaving many to suffer in the shadows. The stigma of speaking out can be devastating for men. The pressure to stay strong and the lack of resources tailored to their needs often lead to tragic outcomes. In fact, men die by suicide 3.9 times more often than women, with many feeling they have no other way to escape the pain. Today, we're breaking the silence. I'm Galen J. Burnside, and in this episode of Changing the Narrative, we're diving into the powerful story of Jason Accashian, a male survivor of domestic violence. Jason endured abuse from his previous relationship, who weaponized his children and the societal biases to control and harm him. His story sheds light on the unique struggles men face, especially when seeking help from law enforcement and the court system. Jason's courage to speak out is not just a testament of his strength, but a call to action for all of us to listen, support, and advocate for male survivors. Together, we'll explore how Jason reclaimed his voice and is now working to change the way we view and support male victims of abuse. Stay with us as we share Jason's powerful journey. What's one of your favorite ways to relax and unwind after a long day?
um, I have a daughter named Marley, so that'll probably give you an idea of what I like to do when I unwind when I get home. But I enjoy cooking, so get in the kitchen, whipping up something for dinner, and then just relaxing with some good conversation and see where the night goes.
Do you have any hobbies or interests that you're passionate about?
Um, I'm passionate about hobbies. I play a lot of golf. Um, Passionate about trying to bring a little more awareness to the struggles of men and the emotional, acceptance of them sharing their emotions. And feel like there's a lot of men that are angry, walking around, don't know how to feel because they've never been allowed to express those emotions. And unfortunately, for my age bracket, I was raised by a generation that went to war, so they didn't even talk about that. So they, definitely weren't crying in the household. And so I just think that society needs to be a little more understanding with the struggles of men, and that's really what I'm passionate about. Is just bringing some awareness to that men seem to be forgotten forgotten people right now, and we're too busy crying in a corner, and there's no one there to really understand what we're going through.
What's a fun fact about you that most people might not know?
I've been playing golf with my girlfriend for about 3 years now, and I've never beat her. And yes, it's a little embarrassing, a little emasculating. She's only about 5 foot, you know. So, but I've never beat her in golf, but maybe one of these days I will.
Who is someone that inspires you and why?
My kids, they they're really the main reason why I'm still here today, and they've seen a lot, and they're genuinely good people. They've been able to evolve past what they witnessed, when they were young. So my kids.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you want to go and why?
Jamaica. I'd love to go to see, you know, Bob Marley's house and just kind of be in that island life for a little bit.
Are you nervous to tell your story? Why or why not?
No, I'm not nervous. I've been encouraged by a lot of people along this journey who have given me a little confidence that what I have to say, people want to hear, and that confidence has kind of pushed away really any nervousness that I may have. So thankful to people like you and others in my past that over the last couple of months have just really been supportive and encouraged me. And I prayed this morning, so it's really out of my hands now. We'll see where we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Galen J. Burnside. I am here with Tamika Lassane at Level Up Hair Salon, and I want her to tell you about herself and about her business.
Well, as he said, my name is Tamika Lassane, and we're here at Level Up Hair Salon. And I have been in the industry for 28 years. I've been teaching cosmetology for 12 years, and I just love the industry. I have a passion for this industry, and this is all I know. I promote healthy hair. Here at Level Up, we are diverse with natural hair, chemicals, colors, relaxers, cuts. We have stylists that braid hair, that does retwists for natural hair. Um, and we just want it to be a place in Charlotte where the community can come and get everything done in a one-stop place with everything you need, your makeup done, your hair, nails, natural hair, whatever you need to do to beautify yourself. We would love for you to come join us at Level Up Hair Salon.
And I just wanted to personally say thank you so much for everything that you've done for my survivor of domestic violence. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this. And again, I just want to say thank you for not only just doing what you did for her, but making her feel beautiful, making her feel confident. I can tell how happy she is. And that's something that's needed, I feel, with survivors, is that we so often forget to take care of us. And that was what today was about. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that.
You are so welcome, Gailey. And it was an honor for doing that for her. I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this because it is what I do at the end of the day. That's my satisfaction and my joy, bringing the beauty out of others and making them feel good and confident about themselves.
Yes, and stay tuned. This is only one of many to come. Can you share your story with us? How did your relationship start? And at what point did you begin to notice signs of domestic violence?
Uh, we we started dating for a little bit. Um, I would probably say it was. Hey, I'm about to restart this. Re-ask the question.
Can you share your story with us? How did your relationship start? And at what point did you begin to notice signs of domestic violence?
We started dating and quickly it developed into a serious relationship. The first couple of years were normal, I guess, per se. Um, it wasn't until probably about halfway through the relationship that things really started getting a little out of whack. Noticed that it was derogatory comments. Um, and then that went on for a little while. And then, of course, the physical followed. Um, it was really the last few years that we were together that the relationship was just it was just in turmoil. Um, Daily arguments. Um, you never knew when it would go from words to physical. Sundays really seemed to be the worst day for whatever reason. So a lot of times that we would just you could prepare for it because you kind of knew that what day was going to end up being the worst. Um, but it was really just the last few years, like I said, that just it was bad. It was bad.
What were some of the first warning signs or red flags that you experienced in your relationship?
Um, Probably for me, the first red flag was one of the favorite phrases was that I was just nothing but a worthless piece of shit. And when that started transitioning to you're a worthless piece of shit, then she would look at my kids and say, you're just like your dad. I think that's when I realized this is not anything close to the relationship that I wanted, not only for me and her, but for me and my kids, for her and my kids. Uh, I think that's when I realized I was not the only one in the abusive relationship. Now my kids were a part of it as well.
How did the abuse impact your daily life, mental health, and sense of self during that time?
Mental health, I took a beating. Um, Someone tells you that you're worthless enough, you eventually start to believe it. Um, I just, my whole life, I just wanted to be a dad, wanted to be a good dad. And when I started questioning if if I was even accomplishing that daily task, that's when my mental health really took a nosedive. I flirted with suicide a few times. Um, I wasn't healthy on any level, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. I was kind of just withering up, kind of had given up, really.
What were the challenges you faced in recognizing and admitting to yourself that you were in an abusive relationship?
Being a man, um, it, because everything that I had ever known when you hear about domestic violence was male on female. So it took me a long time to even put two plus two together. Um, I, I use the analogy frog in the boiling water. If you have a pot of boiling water and you throw a frog in it, the frog instantaneously knows that he's boiling and he tries to escape. But if you put that same frog in a pot of water that's room temperature and you slowly bring it to a boil, the frog will stay in that water until he boils to death. It's kind of how it was. Just on top of being a man, on top of thinking that this can't really happen to me, just the slow process, it, it, it just boiled me alive. I didn't even really know or realize that I was in so deep until it just became to a point where I didn't even know how to get out. So I went from not even knowing I was in it to not even knowing how to get out, basically, within a very short period of time.
How did your abuser's actions affect your relationship with your children?
It it made it stronger um, because I couldn't fight back against my abuser because she was a female. My kids, I felt like they looked at me a little different. They looked at me a little softer. Um, and because I tried to take that on, I couldn't fight back. So when it was just the kids and I, we just gravitated. They saw, I felt like part of it was they felt bad for me. They didn't know how to process it as well. But then whenever it was just us, we got to escape. We played outside. We made up our own games, and during that period of time, I think about it as really just some of the worst times of my life. But when I talk to them and I find out from them that it was the best time, like it was the greatest time for them, it it really I've been able to look back now and see that it really forced us together. We leaned on each other. We used each other to laugh and to heal without even really getting into the weeds of the abuse.
What was the most challenging part of trying to protect your children when you felt like you couldn't protect yourself?
Uh, so the last couple of years, I was pretty sick. My company had a carbon monoxide leak, and so I had developed some lesions on my brain. All of my organs had inflamed. Um, I was just kind of a walking zombie. Um, I was in and out of the hospital. They didn't know what was wrong with me. So, feeling like when you feel like you can protect them, even though I guess legally you can't, there's still something there that allows you to feel like a man. Like, I can protect them, but there's this legal hurdle we're gonna have to get over. When I got to be so sick, I mean, my daughter would bring me peanut butter and crackers, my like they were almost like my nurse. Like I was just in such bad shape that, I couldn't protect myself from anything. So I couldn't protect them from anything. And that still weighs on me to this day. That is still a hurdle, a self-healing that I'm trying to figure out. Trying to take it not so personal that I was not the man that I wanted to be to my children. And I know that they saw me sick, but I don't give myself that freedom. I view myself as father first, through sickness, through the abuse, father first. And I felt like I dropped the ball those last, especially the last year when I was really bad. And it's still, I think that's the hardest thing, is no man ever wants their family, or especially their children, to think of them as weak, think of them as less than a man. And I carry that. I still carry it. Even though I've made a lot of progress since, it's just something about having your kids, when they're young, look at you just confused. And I'll leave it at that. Not sure where I'm going. Feel like I'm
No, you good.
feel like I'm venturing down a path that I think we're going to get to at some point in time.
You good. Next question. How do you think the abuse has impacted your children, both in the short term and in the long term?
Short term, I don't think they acknowledged it. We joked about it. There were some instances where, when they were brought up, they're brought up kind of in a lighthearted, joking manner. As they've gotten older, and especially since I've started this journey, I've been able to really see a clearer impact. My boys are gentle, kind souls, and they're emotional. My daughter is she's a little more stern. She's a little more, you know, I'm coming at you. But she's definitely softening. She's been the one that has messaged me the most to encourage me on this journey. And I see, the more I speak, I see her becoming more soft and open and understanding to the trauma that we all went through.
Did you encounter any stigmas from friends, family, or professionals when you shared your experience? How did that impact you?
Uh, Probably the best way to answer that question is with a recent experience. Um, at the time, no one really knew. I kept it extremely close to the chest. Only a few people did, and those few people that knew just wouldn't do anything, wouldn't help in any way. But as I've started speaking, I would speak a lot to my mom. My mom raised me along with my grandparents, and so we've always had a very good relationship. And as I've been speaking more and more, my mom has actually pulled away more and more. Doesn't want to hear the true story, calls it drama. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me, is for the people that knew the truth to not acknowledge the truth, to try to silence me, to to act like I'm just supposed to sit on these feelings and not heal. It's been a little difficult to be so far removed from the abuse and be on this healing path, a path that I feel like my God has put me on, and to still not have the support from the people that I'm supposed to, and to still have the denial from the people that shouldn't be denying it. it it's been difficult. It's actually been harder to deal with it now than it was back then, due to the fact that the people that I have around me just are still not accepting of the situation.
Can you describe a specific incident that became the turning point for you where you decided enough was enough?
I can. So at the time, I was sick. I was going to physical therapy 3 hours a day, a couple days a week. I would take physical therapy, speech therapy, and cognitive therapy. Pretty much had to learn how to walk again, talk again, the whole nine. And I had therapy on a Monday, and so the previous day, Sunday, um, the kids and I were at the house playing. Uh, my abuser came home and immediately found some issues with some things that we had done around the house. And I was just sitting in a chair, and I had my daughter and my son, and my oldest was sitting over on the couch. And it was sitting in this chair that we all called like the chair of death, because for 2 years I sat in this chair just withering away. And when she came in and asked, who folded these towels, I said I did. And at the time, when things got a little crazy, I would stutter. And I guess I stuttered. And she said, "Don't play that stuttering shit with me." And the next thing I know, I just felt a blow. Um, and when I looked up, I saw my youngest boy. He was pushing her off of me. My oldest son, he was just sitting on the couch just crying now, all hell had broke loose. So the next day, I had therapy, and when they asked me how my weekend was, I started crying, and I finally told somebody, and they sent me over to the battered women's shelter in Charlotte to file my report.
Thank you. We're going to give Jason a break, let him collect himself, and we'll be right back. We're now back, and we will continue the questions. What do you believe needs to change in how society and law enforcement view male survivors?
So, from a societal standpoint, I didn't feel like anybody would believe me if I spoke up. Everything that I had ever heard, seen was for the battered women's shelter, or it was all geared around support for women. I didn't think anybody would believe that a man could be a victim at the hands of a female. So, because it took me so long to believe it, I didn't think anybody else would believe it immediately. Um, I've tried to reach out to the different agencies that failed me at the time, and not doesn't seem like much has changed. Uh, but it was just a situation where, because I did not think that there were any services for me, um, it didn't breed, this openness to go and talk about it. Even when I was sent to file my report, they sent me to the battered women's shelter and then sent me right back home. There were no housing. There was nothing for me. So, I had to basically tell and then go back to the person that I told on. And even over the next few weeks, when social services came in and did their home uh, visit, talked to the kids at school, there was even some suggestions uh, for her as far as anger management, that they didn't even really follow up on. So it was, I know now, if the genders had been reversed, there would have been a whole different outcome to this story.
You've mentioned taking your story to law enforcement and court systems to start a conversation about abuse that happens to males. What was the response, and have you seen any progress?
I actually took my story to 7 different agencies in the county that I reside. Half of them were law enforcement. Even one of them had a special department for domestic violence. I have been contacted by none of them. Um, Evidently, the conversation still is not important enough to have. Um, I have done some research and realized there's only a handful of shelters that will accommodate men, even all across the country. When you still go on these websites, any domestic violence website, there is still 95% pictures of women. The men's resources or cliff notes are usually down, towards the bottom. It's still very male exclusive, just from the initial format. Um, it's it saddens me that after all these years, not much has really changed.
So, before this next question, I'd like to give a disclaimer. We understand and respect that domestic violence affects individuals of all races and backgrounds, and every survivor's story is important. Our intention is not to diminish any experiences, but to highlight the broader spectrum of those affected. As a male survivor, how do you perceive the predominant portrayal of domestic violence survivors as Caucasian females? Do you believe this impacts the experiences of other marginalized groups in being taken seriously?
I definitely think that it hurts different groups from being taken seriously. Um, at most of the events that I've spoken at, white males are non-existent, and actually white females are very few and far between. So I feel that there is an entire generation of genders, races that are being kind of left in the dark, not only about um, being knowledgeable of the abuse and the different types, but also of the resources that are available.
How have you begun to heal from the trauma of your experiences, and what advice would you offer to other male survivors of domestic violence?
Uh, so this is going to be a lengthy answer. My healing uh, was really impacted um, by me losing my faith. When I was going through my abuse, was the people around me um, said they were Christians, but then really let me down, let my kids down at a very critical time. So, in the years that preceded that or post that, I lost a lot of faith. Um, I viewed everyone, especially Christians, as hypocrites. Um, and it wasn't until I saw my kids really battling some things that I knew that I finally needed to speak up. And I took a speaking class on domestic violence. In that class, I met 25 beautiful people. And it was the first time that I felt like anybody believed my story. So as I spoke and heard other people's stories, I noticed that all of them had a very strong faith basis, which I was missing. So over the last couple of months, some of the people that I've met in there have really encouraged me to tap in or to tap back into my spirituality. And the healing really came when I just gave this path up to my God and just said, take me where I need to go. Um, no, you're fine.
I was trying to hold it in. Okay. Sorry.
Um, take me where I want to go or where you want me to go. Take me where you want me to go and I'll go. And because I was scared to death I was scared to death to take the class, much less be on here with you talking about this. So I'm not strong enough to walk this path. And once I realized that, once I just gave it up and said, look, I don't want to do this, but my son told me if God wants you on the path, you're going to be on the path. So that's really when I felt the healing begin. I felt the anger that I was still holding in, the confusion, the sadness. A lot of that started to just kind of fade away. And it seems like every time I take a step, it's I'm rewarded um, in some way, form, or fashion to know that even though I don't feel strong enough to walk this path, I'm walking it with my God, and that's given me really the healing that I was missing on a spiritual level. I felt like I had healed in every way that I could, you know, emotionally, physically. I used to be almost 300 pounds. I've lost 120 pounds. So physically, I've healed, but my spirituality was still just torn and tattered. And once I finally gave it up, that's when the full healing, um, I can feel it happening every day. I feel closer to my God. Every day I feel closer to being the Jason that I want to be. And we'll just see how it continues to roll.
What role has sharing your story publicly played in your healing process, and has it made a difference for others you've spoken to?
Yes, stepping out on faith has been scary, but every event that I speak at, I seem to run into someone who, especially men, who are just appreciative that there's another man being vulnerable, being emotional. Um, there was a lady at an event that I spoke at whose husband was with her. I happened to see her a few weeks later, and she comes running up to me and she said, I want to thank you for speaking at this event a few weeks ago. My husband was there. And hearing you speak and hearing your side of the story, our relationship has been different now for the last 3 weeks. He's been kinder. He's been more gentler. He's been more, you know, interactive with me and my story. And she said, I consider my healing journey started on the day that you spoke because it changed my relationship, my marriage. And so I don't understand why anybody would really care what I have to say. But I always come out of events feeling like I was meant to be there. People, it has touched the people that it was meant to touch. And I've linked up with a Father's Haven group that is fantastic, and that's really where um, I find the most. I'm more optimistic about that because the men that I seem to be running into at these events, you can see that they're hurting, and seeing another man hurt, but hurt openly, I feel it's giving them the ability and the courage to tap into their own pain that they're dealing with.
What message do you hope to convey to other men who may be afraid to come forward as survivors?
So, on a survivor basis, tell someone, just tell someone. Um, I had my kids, I didn't have to tell them because they witnessed it. Um, but tell someone, find something that you can hold on to and stay grounded, stay in reality. Because as you're going through that, it's the depression, the turmoil that it takes on you. You can jump into the quicksand real fast. And you'll go from feeling, I call it quicksand because some days I could recognize that I was in it, some days I couldn't. Once I was in the quicksand, I couldn't get out. It would take weeks to claw myself out of it. So find something that means everything to you. My kids, they kept me alive. They were what I clung to when I needed a reason to just not quit. Um, and I'm sorry, you had a second part to that question. Um, if you want to read it over again, edit this.
Nope. What message do you hope to convey to other men who may be afraid to come forward as survivors? That's it.
Okay, so as far as outside of domestic violence, um, I just encourage all men to acknowledge the pain that that we endure. Society has men in this, there's this image that you're supposed to be strong and powerful and show no emotion. It's not healthy. Um, we are we are meant, our bodies are meant to express emotions. Crying is not only emotionally therapeutic, but your tears actually have antibacterial properties to them. So there are m- a multitude of reasons to be able to be emotional. The only reason that we're not is because society says if a man cries, he's weak. And that could be farther from the truth. There's a quote that says, society views crying as a weakness, but since birth, it's been a sign that you are alive. I think that that is the most truthful thing that I have ever heard. There's no reason why we can cry when we're one, but we can't cry when we're 51. 51-year-old man. Even just a few years ago when I was having a difficult relationship with my daughter, I would go to bed and just hurt. It there as a man, we're allowed to hurt. The problem is we hurt in a dark corner where no one can see us. And that is concerning, especially when you look at the suicide statistics. Like you mentioned, men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. I have been on a bathroom floor holding a razor blade, screaming every possible horrific thing to my God, begging him, give me a reason to not do this. When I had 3 beautiful reasons just in the other room with my kids. So, from a male standpoint, we've got to do a better job of starting a conversation. The women, if you have a man in your life, don't just say, how was your day? How are you doing today emotionally? Do you need anything? Do you need to cry? As a woman, do you make your man feel like he can just come to you, fall into you, and let out all the daily frustrations that he's dealt with just because he's a man? And until we can create this open conversation, there's going to be a lot of men that are going to be struggling and hurting in a corner that nobody's even going to see.
We have covered a lot of topics today. Is there anything else that we did not cover that you would like to share?
Uh, just if anyone would like to continue this conversation, please feel free to reach out to me. The the I'm drawing a blank here. Give me a minute. I'm trying to get my words together. Pause, like you said. Um, if there's a man out there that's struggling with anything, definitely please find some find some help. Find an outlet. Um, if there's anyone watching that can do anything about it, how about we throw some men on these domestic violence pages? We got to figure out a way to make it a little more inclusive. But outside of that, I've just been trying to use these opportunities to meet people. I've met some wonderful people, some wonderful organizations, and I'm helping them, get furniture for crisis homes, clothing for clothes drives like yourself. So I'm just trying to just make my community a little better in any way that I can. I do have a small business, an eBay business. It's called Little This, Little That, 4850. That's on eBay. I have a QR code you guys can scan. My Instagram is JDASMC. That's, that'll take you to pretty much all social media that I have. But outside of that, if there's anybody that just feels the need to reach out, I'll make time to talk to anyone. You know, let you know that the potholes that I navigated along this path, and if anything I can do to make someone else's path a little smoother, then I'll do it.
Before we wrap, Jason has written a poem that I think everyone should hear and be touched by. If you wouldn't mind, please read your poem.
All right. It's called Society Says. Society says tears are treated differently when they fall from the eyes of a man. So I shoved my pain down deep and I held my tears tight in my hand. Society says men should be strong, emotionless, be the protector of the home. So my kids watching can't even protect myself because I have a different chromosome. Society says men are always the abusers. They're stronger. They can never be abused. So, when I was, my desperation turned to depression, and then darker thoughts ensued. Society says, speak out. There are resources. People are there to assist. So, I spoke, nowhere for me, sent back to war with my bruises dismissed. Society says, take them to court. Let the legal system handle the case. So, when I did, I was sent back home to her, even with an anger management order in place. Jason says, I should not be here with you today. I begged God to take me many times. Helpless and broken, 6 years of abuse, might as well have been 6 lifetimes. 16 years of healing, questioning daily, am I a good man? Am I a good father? But when I look back at my pothole-filled path, I no longer see my monster. I see a journey that I needed to walk, would be too heavy for most others, so I could be here to bring to light that abusers can be fathers and mothers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for reading that.
You're welcome.
As we wrap up this powerful and emotional journey, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this project possible. First, a huge thank you to James, CEO of Goofy Entertainment, our multi talented videographer, for capturing these important stories with such care and professionalism. A special thank you to Bree Simone of The Brit Styles and Murphy of Murphy's Cuts for your incredible work on my hair and face. A special thank you to Tamika Lassane of Level Up Hair Salon for your exceptional hair skills, making our survivor feel pampered and valued. To everyone who tuned in to watch this, thank you for your time and attention. Your support in sharing and acknowledging these stories is vital in our mission to change the narrative and provide inclusive support for all survivors of domestic violence. To Jason, thank you for telling your story.
Thank
To
you.
all the people that this will touch and impact, together we can make a difference.